Welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me this morning is Maksym Yali. He's a professor for the National Aviation University in Ukraine. Maksym, it's a pleasure to have you on again.
Hello, Errol. Nice to see you too.
Likewise. I last heard that Ukraine is making some leaps and bounds in terms of taking this war, taking this battle now to the enemy. That you are penetrating the boundaries of Russia. And to me, from my knowledge, it looks somewhat favorable because up to today, more than 606,490 troops of Russians had been killed. And I know at one point, Putin was scrambling to get troops to fight his war. With that being said, and Ukraine is making headway into the Russian territories, what insight do you have on this for the American people who are skeptical?
Well, yes, I believe not only American people, part of them were skeptical about war and how things were going on during last year since our counteroffensive operation, which didn't allow us to occupy the whole territories because of defense lines, as we discussed it with you last time, by the way. So, and during the last months, of course, Russian troops slowly but were moving forward, occupying more and more territories. And of course, the moods even among Ukrainians, I would say, were not uprising. But this military operation, which started on the 6th of August, changed the situation. First of all, in informational sphere, it apprised our mood of Ukrainians, of our troops, and made us believe that we can still win in this war because the penetration was very quick, and it ruined the dilemma, I would say, and so to say, universal truth that Russian border is locked and it's impossible to invade. By the way, it's the first time since the end of the Second World War when troops of another country penetrated Russian border. And so far, it's about almost 20 days. We keep moving, and already we are having good results. We captured thousands of Russian soldiers, and today, it's Independence Day of Ukraine, by the way, today, the 24th of August, there was the first exchange of prisoners of war for the first time for several months. And because Russia was denying to do it, trying to undermine the security and social stability inside Ukraine, because for Ukrainian people, our prisoners of war is a very important issue, and Putin was doing it actually for the whole 10 years. The war is going on, including its hybrid period since 2014 until 2022. And of course, a lot of our partners were also surprised and shocked that Ukrainian troops, Ukrainian army can make such brilliant, unexpected operations. And as we can see, though Russian propaganda was claiming that, well, one day or two, maximum a week, and we'll kill them all. I know it very well because I'm fighting with them in the Middle East, on Middle East TV channels, yes, and they were sure it would be finished very quickly. But so far, already the moods are changing. They understand that our troops will capture these territories for a long time, and it's very good point to raise our positions on possible negotiations with Russia in case Trump wins the presidential elections, he promised he would stop this war with one phone call, though I'm doubting he will. He can manage it, but still. He will put a pressure, first of all, on Ukraine to start peace negotiations and making compromises to Putin, meaning that to allow not to withdraw his troops from the whole territories of Ukraine. And capturing these territories, well, we can propose we're not going to annex it, we don't need these territories, but to exchange for occupied territories make Russian troops to leave in that areas where we do not have enough forces, weapons to break through Russian defense lines, just as it happened in 2023. I guess it's a possible scenario. But of course, Putin will try to revenge. American intelligence, German saying just we are waiting, as I mentioned, today is Independence Day. Usually he is attacking Ukraine with ballistic missiles, with cruise missiles, drones. On such a day, it was in last year, 2 years before, etc. He will definitely try to revenge. And of course, in coming month, at least before presidential elections taking place, there are no chances already for the beginning of peace talks with Russia, but we can see that another offensive operation we are making already in Kharkiv region and have some successes because this spring Russian troops crossed the border in Kharkiv region and captured some territories. So it's already second success of Ukrainian troops. But of course, we need to wait and see how things will go on, because a lot depends on several issues. First of all, logistics, how we can bring their weapons, shells, etc. Of course, Russia still has advantage in the air. They're bombing our just region, Sumy region, which is next to the Russian border. And of course, a lot depends whether our Western allies, first of all, the United States, will react and increase the supply of weapons and shells, rockets, air defense system, etc., just even as they promised before. Because now the front line increased significantly, and of course, it needs more troops and more weapons to control it. So strategically, even it's in favor for Russia, because the longer border and front line is, the more resources it takes for both parts. And of course, that part which has more resources, and so far, unfortunately, it's still Russia, the more chances in long-term perspective to change the situation they have. So actually, that what Putin is doing now, of course, he keeps going on, keeps moving, and just offensive operation in Donetsk region. That's priority number one. He's coming close to one of two biggest towns left controlled by Ukrainians. It's Pokrovsk, and there is already going on evacuation now of civilians, because they came pretty close to it. And of course, it's gonna be a battle for this city, because after it, there is a space to go further, even to Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia region, which are strategic cities, both For example, there is about a million inhabitants in Dnipro, a lot of strategic industries, plants producing weapons, heavy industries located there, very important from all points of view. City, one of the biggest cities in Ukraine. And of course, Putin is willing to capture it as well. But I suppose that until elections in US, until the 5th of November, also he will not have enough of resources to capture even Pokrovsk. But both sides, both parties are trying to increase and to better their I suppose, positions before possible negotiations, peace negotiations under certain conditions I have already mentioned.
What next happen once Ukrainians really penetrate deep in the belly of Russia and has a stranglehold on that territory? What strategic plan you think could be deployed to cripple Russia from doing the damage it presently doing to the Ukraine, be it politically or military, considering what little assistance you may still have from the European allies? Do you have an idea how would it benefit Ukraine? Because it seems and appears that much can't be done between now and November till the presidential election is called and we have a new president in January. I don't know how many support that Biden would have given to you to facilitate your needs between now and December. So with that said, having a stronghold in Russia, would it enable Ukraine to cause a standoff or limit him significantly till we have a new president?
Well, actually, that package finally adopted in US Congress for about $60 billion. Of course, none of them will come to Ukraine, will get much less. But anyway, under considerations of military experts, it will be enough just until the end of the year, until the new president comes to power, at least to hold the line and not to allow Russian troops to break through our defense lines. So I guess also European politicians took measures, understanding the threats and the challenges in case President Trump wins the elections. They are given more support, both financial and military, for this year. They understand that in case Donald Trump wins the election, just as he did in 2016 when he won the elections, he was pushing European allies to take more parts, responsibilities in solving Russian-Ukrainian military conflict. And I suppose they understand the challenges, that also challenges for NATO, the threats proclaimed by Trump, and they realize that they should consider and rely more on themselves. And also that that's why they are giving signal to Putin, increasing military assistance to Ukraine for this year. We signed treaties in defense for 5-10 years long, including with US, by the way, yes, that due to which our allies, no matter, will go on giving us assistance. Of course, there are no strict security guarantees, just as NATO treaty provides, and that's why we are willing to join NATO. But we understand that until war is over, it's impossible to join NATO. It's even due to the treaty. So I suppose until a new president comes to power, firstly, there will be no end to the war, definitely. Secondly, very few chances that official peace talks will take part. And number 3 point is that with this Kursk operation, we Ukrainian part is trying to change the situation on the battlefield. We are having some successes and we are increasing our efforts. We are producing more weapons, new kinds of weapons. We also are taking during these several weeks very good, successful attacks on Russian military airports, from which their fighter jets and bombers attacking Ukrainian territories. That's the biggest threat to Ukraine, as I've mentioned, missiles attacks and cruise bombs. That's the biggest challenges. But we are facing now the intensification on the battlefield, which I suppose will take place until November, because it's not only about presidential elections, but as well weather conditions, because it's gonna start rain season, so heavy weather conditions for tanks, military vehicles, and usually the intensification on the front line decreases in November, December, until it's already very cold, minus temperature, and it's possible to go on to start offensive operation. So I guess this period will go on for several coming months, during which both sides will try their best to better their possible positions for further negotiations. Then it's impossible and no need to make any prognosis, because not me to tell you that every presidential elections, it's about 50-50 chances, yes, and nobody can say for sure who will win these presidential elections. And of course, it will depend a lot who will win, because different strategies, different attitude to this war, different attitude to the support of Ukraine of both candidates. So we'll see.
At this juncture in the war, is there any Ukrainian cities that are presently under siege by Russians?
As I have mentioned, so the priority goal of Putin now, he officially proclaimed starting this unprovoked military aggression against Ukraine and after victory of Ukrainian troops for the battle for Kiev. Of course, initially he wanted to occupy the whole territory of Ukraine and to control it all, to bring it back to its geopolitical sphere of influence. But so far, after, as I have mentioned, we defeated him in the battle for Kiev, he withdrew his troops from Kiev, Zhytomyr, Sumy region, Chernihiv region. We deoccupied 4 regions. Then he proclaimed officially that he wants to occupy Donetsk and Lugansk region. Lugansk region is almost fully controlled by Russian troops, but Donetsk region still a lot of territory is controlled by Ukraine, and 2 major cities are left, towns, I would say. Pokrovsk region now, which he is going and trying to seize, and then Kramatorsk, it's also a very big industrial town, about 300 inhabitants before the beginning of full-scale war. So that's his goal number 1 until the presidential elections are over in US, to capture Donetsk and Lugansk region, and then he could and he can proclaim to his people that he won this war, that the whole that all goals have been achieved, and he can start peace talks. So, but as I have mentioned before, he also does not have enough resources to achieve this goal until presidential elections and even until the end of the year. Because, for example, Bakhmut, pretty small town, it took him for a year to capture, to destroy it completely. Only ruins are left. Or Mariupol, for example. Here, though it was besieged absolutely from all sides, it took him about 3 months to occupy it completely. Of course, he doesn't have such advantages in Donetsk region, and also he doesn't have so much resources, both military, infantry, tanks, etc., etc. As you have mentioned, more than 600,000 Russians soldiers have been killed already, and without new mobilization, it will be impossible to achieve.
Right.
So, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm wondering, because earlier in the war, I remember clearly Zelensky has stated that they're going to reclaim every city, including Crimea, as a stage to restore the full occupation of Ukraine as their sovereignty. Is that still stand at Zelensky right now? There would be no negotiating. Would Ukraine stand up and reclaim every square feet of their land?
Well, official, though, during last several months, there were statements that possibly not all Ukrainian territories will be brought to control by Ukrainians in military way, because unfortunately we don't have enough of resources concerning people and military. And as I have mentioned, now we have received only about not more than 10 F-16 because total superiority of Russians in the sky plays a very important role. And that's why we didn't manage to deoccupy our territories last year when we started offensive operations. It's very important. Until the end of the year, we will not get more than 20 F-16. Besides, the preparation of the pilots is taking place, and so they have been prepared in the US, and a few of them. So it's a long process. So I suppose we understood that it's impossible in the nearest perspective, short-term perspective, to do it with the potential we are having now and with the support we are having now. What if, for example, if we get all the kinds of weapons we need to make the balance, then we can do it. But with the without significant increase of the support from the United States, as I have mentioned, air defense systems, and preparation of our soldiers, and of course F-16, we need hundreds of them, not 10, not 20. Yeah. Without it, it's impossible to achieve these goals, to deoccupy the whole territories of Ukraine, including Crimea. But I suppose peace negotiations will take place sooner, because we are exhausted already. We don't have enough resources. We don't have people. Our cities have been ruined, and we don't have even enough of air defense system to shut down the rockets. As I told you before last time, Russia is attacking our energy grid, and when there was too hot, there were blackouts, and we had just in July electricity for 3-4 hours a day. No, it's a catastrophe for economy as well. And winter is coming as well, you know. And if there are -10, -20, there will be no electricity for 20 hours a day. And there will be a challenge for us, not cities not to be frozen, people not to be frozen. Absolutely. So it's a big challenge, and that's how Putin is trying to make us agree for his conditions. And also a lot depends whether we get even that 5 Patriot systems our allies promised us to give. But the problem is that our allies promised but didn't supply. You see, and as I have mentioned, what we are having is not enough. So I guess we should wait until November. It's a deadline so far, and then we'll see the perspectives of peace negotiations and